Welcome back, the followers of Stoic Wisdom by Zeno. Have you ever felt like you're trapped in a play where everyone around you is wearing a mask? They smile, nod, shake hands, all the right moves. But underneath, it's a whole different story. We're all actors in our own dramas. The world is a stage, and people are constantly performing. But here's the thing. Real power isn't in the act. It's in seeing through it. The truth is, everyone's hiding something. Every smile hides a thought. Every gesture masks a motive. And every conversation carries a secret waiting to be uncovered. Imagine you're standing in a crowded room, watching people interact. Everyone's doing their best to play their part. But if you know what to look for, you can see through the cracks in the facade. It's like watching a magician perform a trick. They distract you with one hand, while the other is quietly doing something else. The trick? Learning how to spot the shifts, the way their eyes flicker when they lie, the sudden pause in their voice when they're hiding a secret, the tension in their posture when they're uncomfortable. I'm not talking about mind games or manipulation. I'm talking about understanding the truth of who someone really is beneath the surface. This isn't about being paranoid. It's about becoming aware, because the world is full of distractions, loud, flashy, and designed to keep you from seeing what's real. But once you develop the skill to read people like a book, you'll never see the world the same way again. The good news? You don't need a PhD in psychology or a crystal ball. All it takes is learning to observe instead of reacting, and that's exactly where Stoic philosophy can help. It's not about controlling others or making them play into your hands. It's about gaining clarity, about learning to see what others miss. So, how do you do it? Let's dive in, and I'll show you how to peel back the layers and see the world through a clearer lens. Because when you know how to read people, you hold the keys to understanding human nature and the power to protect yourself, gain trust, and build real connections. Hit that like button and subscribe to Stoic Wisdom by Zeno, because this knowledge isn't just for survival, it's for mastery. Let's dive deep. Number 1. Ask and you shall receive. The power of tell me more. You've probably been in a conversation where someone starts talking passionately about something and you feel the urge to jump in, share your opinion, or correct them. But what if I told you that the real power in these moments comes not from speaking, but from saying just 3 simple words? Tell me more. It sounds too easy, right? But there's a catch. It's not about being passive. It's about unlocking the hidden layers of a person's mind. It's like peeling an onion layer by layer without them even realizing it. What starts as a casual exchange can evolve into a deep dive into someone's beliefs, fears, and motivations. Think of it like a detective working a case. The best detectives don't rush to conclusions. They ask questions, listen intently, and pay attention to the small details. They allow the truth to unfold naturally. This is the power of the tell me more technique. You let the other person talk without judgment, without interjecting with your own thoughts. And in doing so, you gain a window into their world. Let me give you an example. I once got into an argument with a friend over something trivial, whether pineapple belonged on pizza. Sounds ridiculous, right? But in that moment, my instinct was to argue my side, to debate and defend my position. But something stopped me. Instead of firing back with my thoughts, I simply said, "Tell me more." At first, they kept talking about the pizza, but then, like peeling back the layers of a story, they began to share deeper things. They talked about family dinners, childhood memories of food, and even a painful experience they had with pineapple as a kid. Suddenly, it wasn't about pizza anymore. It was about something far deeper, their past, their emotions, their connections to what food represented in their life. This wasn't manipulation. It was a real moment of connection. When people feel like they're truly heard, they lower their defenses. They stop trying to convince you of their point and begin revealing the truth of their experience. They might not even realize it, but they're showing you a side of themselves they normally keep hidden. This isn't a tactic you use just to get people to open up. It's a philosophy of listening. In a world that's obsessed with talking, we often forget the power of silence. The "tell me more" technique is your way of cutting through the noise. It's your way of saying, "I see you and I want to understand you." Think of it as creating a space of trust where people feel safe enough to drop their walls. When you use this technique, you invite others into a space where their thoughts are valued, not challenged. When they're not worrying about defending themselves, they'll often end up revealing things that weren't even on their mind at first. In business meetings, personal conversations, and even heated debates, this technique can be a game changer. I remember using it during a high-stakes negotiation. The other party was acting all tough, laying down demands. Most people would have pushed back, tried to outmaneuver them, but instead, I simply kept saying, "Tell me more." And one by one, they began to share their true feelings, the desperation they had for a deal, their fears, and the challenges they were facing behind closed doors. By the end of the conversation, they had practically handed me the keys to their entire strategy. In those moments, you're not just gathering information, you're building empathy. You're seeing past the surface-level discussions and uncovering what truly matters to someone. It's like holding up a mirror to their soul, where they can see themselves clearly, but you get to observe it all. Remember this: the most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't being said. These words by Peter Drucker have always stuck with me. When you ask someone to tell you more, you're not just gathering facts. You're listening for the subtext, the emotions, the stories behind their words. This is where true connection happens. This approach isn't just about listening. It's about seeing the person. Stoicism teaches us that to understand the world, we need to observe it without judgment. The "tell me more" technique is a way to practice that kind of non-judgmental observation in real life. You're not trying to manipulate the conversation or steer it toward your own agenda. You're simply opening the door for someone to walk through and reveal who they truly are. When you listen to others without trying to control the conversation, you learn more than just facts. You gain insight into their fears, their hopes, and their real needs. You also learn more about yourself. The more you listen, the clearer your understanding of human nature becomes. And in a world where so many are focused on their own voices, that's a rare and powerful skill to have. So, next time you're in a conversation, remember, it's not about talking. It's about giving others the space to talk. Ask them to tell you more and watch how much they reveal. You'll be amazed at what you can learn, not just about them, but about the world around you. What do you think about the "tell me more" technique? Have you ever used it to uncover hidden truths? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel, Stoic Wisdom by Zeno, for more insights. Number 2. The true measure of character is how you treat those who can't help you. If you want to know who someone really is, stop looking at how they treat you. Pay attention to how they treat people who can't give them anything in return. The waiter, the janitor, the bus driver, the clerk at the corner store. It's easy to be charming when you're trying to impress someone who can advance your career or boost your social status. But how does someone act when they think no one important is watching? That's where their true nature lies. Think about it. We all wear masks, don't we? You put on your best smile for the boss, laugh at your colleagues' jokes, even when you're not in the mood, and nod politely to your friends' complaints, even when you're barely listening. But the real test comes when the spotlight is off, and there's no one around to see if you're kind or cruel. That's when the curtain falls, and what's behind it is exposed. I once watched someone I worked with transform in the blink of an eye. In front of the boss, they were smooth, polite, the model employee. But after hours, when we went out for a meal, I saw a different side of them. They treated the waiter like they were invisible, barking orders like they were royalty. The shift was shocking. It was as if they thought they could drop the act because no one important was around. And in that moment, I learned a brutal lesson. How someone treats the people they think can't benefit them tells you everything you need to know about their true character. This isn't just about simple manners or decency, it's about integrity. The person who is rude to the waiter, who doesn't thank the cashier, or who dismisses the receptionist, that person is revealing their worldview. They see others as lesser, as tools for their own advantage. The funny thing is, they'll never know that you've already seen through them. You don't need to call them out or make a scene. Their actions are their own undoing. But let me make it clear, this isn't just about pointing out the flaws in others. It's about self-reflection. Every time you treat someone poorly, whether it's a stranger or a colleague, you're showing yourself who you really are. Stoicism teaches us to observe ourselves and others, not just with judgment, but with understanding. If you find yourself dismissing people you think are beneath you, that's the moment to stop and reflect. Why? Because the way we treat those in positions of lesser power is a mirror reflecting our deepest insecurities. In those quiet, seemingly insignificant moments, we reveal who we really are. It's not the grand gestures that define us. It's how we treat the people who can't do a thing for us that tells the true story. Like the person who's always friendly to the boss, but ignores the janitor when no one's looking. They're not just acting out of arrogance, they're revealing an emptiness inside. The most secure people don't need to put others down to lift themselves up. The insecure ones do. Here's the deeper truth. When you treat people with kindness without expecting anything in return, you are building something much greater than social capital. You're building genuine human connection. You're showing the world and yourself that your values are rooted in respect, not convenience. You're not performing to get ahead. You're simply being authentic, regardless of the audience. I once dated someone who was charming and funny around my friends and family. But the moment we were alone, I noticed something strange. When we went out to dinner, they treated the staff with such indifference, like their entire presence was a bother. It was subtle at first, but over time, the cracks in their character grew larger. How they treated others, especially those with no power, was a direct reflection of their insecurity. They needed to feel superior, and that need for superiority was a poison to our relationship because I could see it in every interaction. If you want to know someone's true nature, watch how they behave when the stakes are low, not when they have something to gain. Watch how they treat those who can't help them, who have nothing to offer in return. Do they give respect as easily as they demand it? Are they kind when they don't need to impress? That's when the mask slips. In the end, Stoicism teaches us that true virtue is not about impressing those who can give you something, but about showing your authentic self, no matter who is watching. It's about treating others with respect because it's right, not because it serves your agenda. The people who can't benefit you are the ones who reveal whether your kindness is genuine or just another performance. And those are the moments you can truly trust, because they show you who you are and who the other person is when the mask finally comes off. Number 3. Sudden shifts in tone. Speak louder than words. Have you ever had someone speak confidently, their words flowing like smooth jazz, only to feel a sudden shift, a hiccup, a stumble, a change in their tone that immediately feels off? It's as if they momentarily lost their rhythm, and now you can hear it. The truth isn't always in what people say, but in how they say it. And when the tone shifts, that's when you know the mask is slipping. Picture this. You're in a conversation with someone who's been all charm and certainty, throwing out confident statements and grand ideas. Then, without warning, the tone changes. The words don't stop, but the energy does. Suddenly, they speak slower, softer, or faster, as though they're trying to convince themselves, not you. You might think it's just nerves, but let me tell you, it's something far deeper. It's the sound of a lie or a hesitation trying to sneak through the cracks. Think of it like a tightrope walker who's been steady, but just a moment before reaching the other side, they wobble. Their balance shifts, and that wobble, even if brief, betrays a fundamental truth. They're not as steady as they seem. The same happens when people speak. Their tone is the tightrope, their words the balancing act. And when something's off, it's as clear as a crack in the facade. Take a simple example. You're in a meeting and someone's talking up a storm about a project they're working on. The words sound perfect, well-crafted and convincing, but then, out of nowhere, their voice falters. It's almost imperceptible to the casual observer, but you can hear it. The pause, the drop in pitch, the quick recovery. They said everything right, but you know something's wrong. That small break in their delivery isn't a mistake. It's the truth fighting its way out. This is what's happening. When people lie, their bodies and minds are in conflict. The words they speak are designed to project one version of reality, but their subconscious is working overtime to keep the lie intact. In that moment, their voice, their tone, becomes a battlefield, and the truth wins. The voice betrays the lie, and the shift becomes the tell. And don't just take my word for it. Listen to any great storyteller, actor, or even a poker player. They'll tell you the same thing. The secret isn't in the words. They're secondary to the delivery. A person who's good at reading others knows that when the tone shifts, the script is being rewritten. It's not the words that make you suspect foul play, but the way those words come out. I remember once working with a colleague who was always smooth, too smooth. He was that guy who could charm the room, speak with perfect timing, and make you feel like he had the world figured out. But one day, during a routine project update, I noticed something odd. His tone shifted. His usual confidence turned into a nervous stutter just for a second. The words were still coming, but now they felt rehearsed. Suddenly, I wasn't listening to someone in control. I was hearing someone trying to cover up a mistake, or worse, an outright lie. Sure enough, by the end of the meeting we discovered that what he'd claimed to have finished was nowhere near completion. It wasn't his words that gave him away, it was the subtle shift in his tone. Now some of you might be thinking, well, I've heard people get nervous all the time, and that's just part of being human. And you're right. But here's the thing, nervousness doesn't just change your voice, it scrambles it. The hesitation you hear is often more than just uncertainty. It's the body's way of signaling that something doesn't match up with the story being told. It's like a jigsaw puzzle with a piece that doesn't fit. If you've ever caught someone in a lie, you've probably noticed that their words speed up or slow down in ways that don't make sense. It's not just nerves, it's the voice trying to control the chaos within. When someone speaks with certainty, their words flow. They don't pause, they don't stutter. But when they're hiding something, the body betrays them. A slight pitch change, a slight hesitation, they all become the signs you need to recognize the lie for what it is. It's like watching a mask slip off for a split second, revealing the real face underneath. And here's where Stoic philosophy shines through. Observe, don't judge. The Stoics believed in mastering self-awareness and cultivating calm in all circumstances. They knew that by staying centered, we could better perceive the truth of situations around us. When you see the shift in someone's tone, don't rush to conclusions or make accusations. Just take note. Let the tone be your guide to deeper understanding. People don't always say what they mean, but their voice doesn't lie. So, the next time you're in a conversation and someone's voice starts to tremble, shifts in pitch, or seems out of sync with their words, don't just brush it off. Listen closer. The truth is often hiding in the cracks, right there in the tone. What do you think about this technique of reading tone to spot lies or hesitation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more Stoic Wisdom by Zeno. Number 4. The past is never really gone. It's just waiting to shape you. You know how the saying goes, the past is a shadow. It follows you, even when you try to leave it behind. And just like a shadow, it's rarely as harmless as it seems. When you're trying to read people, the most powerful key you can have is understanding their past. Because what they've lived through doesn't just sit behind them like a dusty memory. It shapes their every move, their every word, their every action. It's like an invisible hand guiding their behavior from the shadows. Think about it. We all have scars. Some of them are visible, some aren't, but they all leave marks. A scar isn't just a reminder of pain. It's a record of something that happened to you, something that changed you. And so it is with people. Every experience, every triumph, every failure, every heartbreak, they all carve out a map in the person's mind, guiding how they react to the world. Imagine you're sitting across from someone and they're calm, composed, everything seems in order. But the moment the topic shifts to something vulnerable, a certain relationship, a past betrayal, or even a past failure, you sense the change. The face that was so neutral now tightens ever so slightly. The posture that was open and confident shifts, just a fraction, into something defensive. The words come out a little quicker, a little sharper, maybe a little rehearsed. That's when you realize they're not just responding to the present situation. They're responding to something deeper, something that happened to them long ago, but still holds a grip on them. Take a moment and think about people in your life. Your friend who gets overly defensive when you mention a certain topic. Maybe it's money or relationships. You might wonder why they're so touchy. Or the colleague who seems to shut down whenever you suggest a new idea. They might seem unreasonably cautious or even outright dismissive. But if you dig into their past, you'll find clues. That friend, maybe they were burned by a past betrayal, and now they're afraid of being vulnerable again. That colleague, maybe they failed on a big project years ago, and now every decision feels like life or death to them. We tend to judge others based on who they are right now. We take what's in front of us at face value. But what if I told you that the way people act today is a direct reflection of things they've experienced long before? The most subtle triggers, the unspoken reactions, even the way they deal with stress or disappointment, all of it can often be traced back to an event or pattern from their past. This is something the Stoics understood well. What happens to us shapes us, But that doesn't mean we should react blindly to the present. Stoicism teaches us to observe without judgment and to understand that behind every action is a deeper cause. Let's dive deeper. The past isn't just a collection of events, it's a blueprint. The person who gets angry at the slightest provocation. It's not just that they're hot-tempered. It could be that as a child, they were constantly told they were too much or too loud, and now they overcompensate by being hyper-aware of any perceived criticism. That quiet friend who never shares their opinions. They might have been shut down as a child for speaking out of turn, so now they stay silent, afraid of judgment. The more you learn about someone's history, the more you'll see the patterns that explain their behavior. But it's not always easy. People don't want to show their past. They want to hide it. They wear masks, hoping you'll see the version of them they want you to see. And often, that's the version we engage with. But the more you observe, the more you start seeing the cracks, the ways they hold themselves back, the ways they react instinctively to things that seem insignificant. Here's the part where Stoicism really comes into play. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, said, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." In other words, life is a constant struggle, and the struggle is shaped by the past we carry with us. But we don't have to be victims of it. By understanding where a person's reactions are coming from, we can approach them with empathy, and more importantly, we can understand them. We can avoid being blindsided by emotional outbursts or misunderstandings because we know that their reactions aren't just about us. They're the echoes of everything that happened to them before. And this is where reading people truly becomes an art. You're not just hearing what they're saying, you're hearing what their past has trained them to say. You're not just observing their body language, you're noticing how it aligns with the fears or desires shaped by their history. When you can start to read a person through the lens of their past, you unlock a level of insight that most people will never get to. This doesn't mean you excuse or enable bad behavior. Understanding someone's past gives you the power to navigate relationships more wisely. It allows you to choose empathy over judgment, to protect yourself from being drawn into their unresolved issues, and to decide how much energy you want to invest in them. So the next time you're sitting across from someone, remember, the past is not a distant memory. It's a live wire, quietly running through every conversation, every action, every word they speak. The more you learn to see it, the more you'll truly understand the person in front of you. Number 5. The mask they wear is often a reflection of their fears. Imagine you're looking at someone and they seem to have it all together. Smooth talker, confident posture, always in control. But behind that polished exterior, there's something off. Maybe it's the way they quickly deflect questions about their personal life, or how they snap at others in seemingly minor situations. Something doesn't feel right, but what is it? Here's where you can begin to see through the layers. The person you're observing might not be showing their true self at all. Instead, they could be wearing a mask, a carefully crafted persona that hides their vulnerabilities and fears. And this isn't just a psychological game, it's something deeply rooted in human nature. People wear masks to protect themselves from the world months, and often from themselves. In Stoic philosophy, there's a powerful idea that relates to this. The obstacle is the way. In other words, the very thing that causes you the most pain can also be the thing that leads you to growth. But what happens when we don't want to face that pain? What happens when the obstacles are so daunting, so overwhelming, that we do everything we can to avoid confronting them? This is where the mask comes in. Everyone wears one, consciously or unconsciously, to hide what they fear the most. It might be fear of rejection, fear of being judged, or the deep fear of failure. These fears are universal, yet each person finds a different way to deal with them. Some people may hide behind a facade of arrogance, others behind humor, or perhaps behind a constant need for approval. Take, for example, the colleague who is always the life of the party, cracking jokes and dominating every conversation. On the surface, they seem to be the epitome of confidence, the person everyone wants to be around. But beneath the surface, there's a story. Maybe they grew up in a family where affection was given only when they performed, where love was conditional. Now they've learned that being loud, funny, and liked is the way to ensure acceptance and validation. They wear that mask of humor to cover up a gnawing insecurity, a fear that if they stop performing, they'll be ignored or rejected. Or consider the friend who always acts tough and distant, never letting anyone get too close. They might seem emotionally closed off, seemingly unaffected by the ups and downs of life. But if you look deeper, you might see that their toughness is a shield, a way to keep the world at arm's length. Perhaps they've suffered betrayal or hurt in the past, and now they refuse to let anyone in. They've built walls not because they don't care, but because they're terrified of the pain that might come with intimacy. The mask is a clever defense mechanism. But here's the catch. The more someone hides behind that mask, the harder it becomes to see who they really are. And in turn, the less they allow themselves to experience the full spectrum of life. They become trapped in their own fear, unable to embrace vulnerability or connection. It's a prison made of their own making. So, how do you begin to read people beneath the mask? You start by looking for the small cracks. It's like being a detective, noticing when their behavior doesn't align with their words, or when the confidence slips, just for a second. When you see someone acting out of character, or reacting in a way that feels disproportionate to the situation, there's usually something more underneath. Stoics, like Epictetus, understood this well. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The mask doesn't show their true reactions, only the ones they want you to see. One of the most powerful ways to uncover the truth is by being present and patient. Don't rush to judge. People will reveal themselves when they feel safe, when they believe the mask won't be torn off. The key is to notice when they let their guard down, in the quiet moments, when they're not trying so hard to impress, or in times of stress, when the mask starts to slip. But don't think that this is about exposing them. It's about understanding. When you recognize the mask, you gain the power of insight. You can empathize with their fears and see how they're trying to protect themselves. This is not to be confused with pity or judgment. The Stoics believed that the greatest wealth is to live content with little. That wealth is the understanding of others, seeing the person beneath the mask and accepting their flaws, their vulnerabilities, and their humanity. By recognizing the masks people wear, you become better equipped to navigate interactions with them. You learn when to offer compassion, when to give space, and when to push them to face their fears. Reading people is not about uncovering their secrets. It's about understanding the invisible forces that drive their actions and reactions. The mask they wear may be a defense against the world, but it's also a reflection of what they fear the most. And if you can see that, you unlock a whole new level of connection. Conclusion. In a world where people often hide their true intentions behind masks, learning to read between the lines can be a game changer. By paying attention to subtle cues, like sudden shifts in tone, body language, or how people treat those in lesser positions, we can uncover hidden truths and gain a deeper understanding of the world around us. The Stoic approach to observing without judgment allows us to connect with others on a more meaningful level, while also protecting ourselves from manipulation. It's about seeing beyond the surface, understanding motivations, and using that insight to build stronger, more authentic relationships. We've only scratched the surface of Stoic wisdom here, but remember, the more we practice awareness and empathy, the clearer everything becomes. So, what are your thoughts? Do you have any experiences where you've used these techniques to understand someone better? Drop your comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you found value in this video, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel, Stoic Wisdom by Zeno, for more powerful insights on mastering the art of reading people and living with purpose. Stay curious, stay wise, and we'll see you in the next one.